Hope everybody's doing okay. This is Slaves of Satan Part 20, and I have not touched on anything to do with music yet. Now, as we get further chronologically in the events of the current world, music will probably be one of the biggest and longest categories. But I want to go back to somebody that played a very big role in the music, at least to transform it into negative spiritual thing that is today, because there are very, very, very few songs that come out that are actually godly. Because, in my opinion, if it is made from a computer, it can't be godly because the computer has sizzles on the motherboard. You have technomancy involved, unless it's someone just sings with an instrument. That's pretty much the only holy music in my opinion. But that's not what this is about. This is about Alexander Scriabin. Now it's usually somebody that nobody really hears about unless they're into composing music, because he was famous for being a composer and a pianist. But people don't know the occult side and to this guy, and they don't realize that this guy was a very evil person. And like I say, the two influences are is it's usually Crowley, but if it's not Crowley, it's Blavatsky. That's the whole point that this series is building on. And since it's part 20, the next episode is going to be a recap of 1 through 20, in case people just need to get caught up because they don't have a good enough memory, or if they're not watching them in order, which I do highly recommend. So, just like the others, he was a follower of Blavatsky instead of Crowley. So obviously he was a theosophist, and I've explained the religion multiple times. But the main thing that makes it different is they believe in well, nowadays they're called ascended masters, but back in this time they were just called Mahatmas or masters of wisdom, stuff like that. And he was very interested in metaphysics, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It usually is, but it can be fine. He had a rare disease known as synesthesia, which is where when you hear a specific sound, your brain forms a color based off of that sound. It's very interesting. I think that played a big part in why he gained all these very weird thoughts. But the main thing that people don't know about him when they when they learn about him as a composer, be it anyone that's probably learning how to play piano professionally has probably taken some inspiration from him. But what they don't know about, and the most important thing about him, and the whole reason I'm making this video, is he spent 12 years preparing for a ritual called the Mysterium. Now, he started working on this in 1902, but died when he was in 1915 from sepsis. And that's a really horrible way to go. My mom died of sepsis as well. So no matter how evil this man was, I'm never happy when I talk about these people's death. Now, what was unique about this was this was going to be a 7 day ritual based off his very unique style of music, but it was going to involve all the senses. So all kinds of mist, all kinds of scents, um, specific dancers, things to touch, and he truly believed. This was not a joke. It was not a metaphor. He completely believed that he was gonna literally destroy the world with this ritual, just like I haven't got to this yet in the series, but just how like Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard ripped open a portal in space and time, or how Crowley and Roddy Minor opened up a ripped open a portal in space and time, and Lam came out. I imagine this guy understood quantum physics and metaphysics to the same level or even higher, because he fully believed that if he could pull this off, he could destroy the entire world. He had 74 pages prepared for the sequence of the songs. There was thousands of people that he had lined up to come whenever he finished it, and I believe he died when he was kind of close. And also, what's interesting is the location specifically had to be in the Himalayas, and the reason is because that's where a lot of the ascended masters are hiding out at. They're hiding out in a place known as Sambala, which is one of the mythological areas in the world that's been talked about for years, just like Lumeria, Atlantica, New Asgard, things like that. So see, areas like that is very charged demonically, and there's probably something called ley lines there, and ley lines is an area that has very strong supernatural activity, or some people will call it sacred ground. And like for example, that's why every year they continue to use Bohemian Grove to meet there every year and do the cremation of care to the 50-foot statue of Moloch, because the certain area is part of what gives that ritual power. And this man also had a very extreme god complex. Not and this was before all these New Agers believe that they're their own god. He literally believed that he was the Messiah. It wasn't a joke. It was not just a superiority complex. He literally believed that he was God, the Messiah, reincarnated on Earth. But instead of doing anything good, he was gonna destroy the Earth. It's very very strange. Um, and see, yeah, the same people popping up again. Like one of the people that he gained inspiration from, and I even did a whole video on this man, because all these people in my videos, one of their inspirations is always Friedrich Nietzsche, which, like I said before, and I did almost a 30-minute breakdown on him. He taught people how to be extremely hateful, only to care about themselves. Uh, Says that the weak should just die. All about stepping over other people to get ahead. It's very similar to the Satanic Bible or the Book of the Law. And Friedrich Nietzsche had the idea of the Ubermensch, which is how they got Supermen. Then Blavatsky talked about an era of Supermen with the Aryan race. And he was also, of course, a devout follower of Helena Blavatsky, because he was a theosophist, and that was the founder of theosophy, and he was a disciple of her. So I imagine he was most likely in contact with these ascended masters. And he also drew inspiration from a guy named John Delville, which is another occultist that you don't hear about that often, but another member of the Theosophical Society. Somebody that was involved with Annie Besant, Blavatsky, and that whole group. And he wrote a poem based called Prometheus, a poem of ecstasy, Prometheus poem of fire. And I don't know how many people know this as watching this, but Prometheus a lot of times is used as a depiction of Satan, because the legend goes that Prometheus was one of the um, Greek gods from the older ages that taught humanity how to create fire. So how to cook with fire, how to use it for heat. Now, of course, we can't prove it, but the legends say that Prometheus taught us how to use fire, and people relate Prometheus to Satan. And obviously, we can't prove if that's what he was referring to in that poem, but considering that he's a theosophist, he probably was. And other than the preparation for that elaborate ritual, there's really not a lot else to say about this guy. The reason that I wanted to make this video was to let people know how powerful music can actually be, and that's something that you'll be seeing a lot of in the later episodes once we get further down the chronological line. But this is pretty much the best example to draw from. Then you start seeing the resurgence of the devil getting in music in the 20s again. And like I said, after this is going to be a recap. I was feeling very bad last week, so that's why I didn't get much pushed out. But I'm back to feeling okay again, so they should be more consistent. Have a good rest of the night.